Welcome to our 2018 webinar series. In case you didn't know, 2018 marks LLIS's 20th anniversary. Each webinar this year will involve the number 20. Included in each webinar are advisors' requests for specific information from the 2017 webinar surveys. So watch for a question you may have submitted. Each webinar will last about 50 minutes and you must be logged on for a full 50 minutes to receive CFP credit. Please ask your questions as you have them. We'll do our best to answer them as they come in. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be posted on our website within a week in case you missed it. And throughout 2018, loyal fans will receive 9 CFP CE credits, 1 for each month. And who knows, maybe one lucky viewer will have a chance to win a 20th anniversary gift from LLIS. Today's presenter has been part of LLIS since 2009. She handles many of the client's cases for life, disability, long-term care, and annuities. And since 2014, she has been supervising our very busy new business team. And now, Jennifer Stiles.
Thank you, Claudia. Today, we will be talking about 20 things that your clients should know before an insurance exam. We'll be reviewing the purpose of underwriting. We'll be going over how to receive quotes, some medical exam tips and how to get the best results possible. And I'll also introduce you to the express underwriting that some of our insurance companies are using now to speed the process up. Now, let's first talk about what is the purpose of underwriting. Well, we underwrite in order to assess and classify the degree of risk an insured represents to the insurance company and to decide whether to accept or decline that risk. The higher the risk, the higher the premium. Here's a group of insureds that represent a similar level of risk to the insurance company. And when it comes to underwriting classifications or approvals, I like to think of them as buckets. There are predetermined conditions you must meet in order to fit into that bucket. There's also predetermined premium prices associated with these buckets, and that's what allows us to accurately quote different companies. Today, I would like to talk about the top row of these buckets. The bottom row, the table ratings, flat extras, exclusion riders, and declines. These are people that typically have significant health history or risky lifestyle behavior, and we tend to know that information, so they don't tend to be surprises. What I'd like to focus on today are things that may make a difference between somebody being a preferred plus to a preferred, or what makes the difference between a preferred and a standard plus, because those are things that, sometimes become surprises to us. Within these buckets, there's also male and female rates. Everything else being equal, men pay more for life insurance than women because women have a longer life expectancy. So our chances of dying at a younger age are lower. So women pay less for life insurance. There's also smoker and non-smoker rates. Smoker rates can be anywhere from 2 to 4 times the non-smoker version. Now let's take a look at quotes. If your client wants to get a quote, how do you go about doing that? Well, if you're getting quotes from LLIS, you can either call us, one of our advisor services team member can gather information over the phone, the health information, lifestyle type questions of your client. Some people actually prefer to have that phone conversation. We also have on our website, and this is kind of what we recommend, that clients log on to LLIS and request a quote. If you log onto our website and request a term quote, this is what you would see. And we recommend that clients complete this information, not the financial advisors, because obviously you may not know or be familiar with your clients' medical history, lifestyle, or family history. So we want to get good information up front. And they can complete this, this is available 24 hours a day. So there's basic demographic information. We ask some lifestyle type questions there. We ask height and weight and a list of health questions. And it does go on to the next screen. We're pretty comprehensive in the questions that we ask. And then the last screen are family history questions, because all of that plays a role in the company we may recommend or the approval class that your client will be eligible for. Now, you may say that's a lot of questions to complete just to get a quote. And it is, but if your client doesn't have any health issues or risky behaviors, it really takes no time at all to click no, no, no for the answers. If they do have several of these conditions, well, that's information we need to know in order to accurately quote your clients. So it may seem like a lot of information up front, but in the long run, it ends up saving a lot of time and a lot of money for your clients. And we have the underwriting guidelines for the different insurance companies. Some are more liberal than others. A perfect example is Greg here, age 42, applying for $1 million of life insurance. His father died of heart disease at age 57. Let's see what sort of best case scenarios he would be eligible for. Well, 3 companies would actually approve them at the best class it preferred, with a premium of anywhere from $966 to $1,175 per year. 8 companies, the best he could get is Standard Plus, with premiums ranging from $1,324 to $1,488. And 5 companies, just based upon the family history alone, the best he would be eligible for is Standard, and those premiums start at $1,616. So as you can see, just with that one situation, having a father who died of heart disease at age 57, you could see the premium price differences between the different insurance companies. So that's why we like to gather all this information up front, because what we like to do is get as much information as we can about your client so we can paint a picture of your client's situation to the underwriter. So it's super clear on which approval class to have your client approved for. We're not a big fan of surprises here at LLIS when it comes to life insurance. In fact, we do everything in our power to avoid surprises. How do we do that? Well, we do that by doing a lot of pre-underwriting. Like I said, we have the insurance company guidelines, and some are more liberal than others with build or family history. So we take that into consideration when reviewing your client's information. Sometimes there are situations where it's not super clear on how to quote your client. Maybe your client had previous cancer 7 years ago and went through chemo, but has been cancer-free for the past several years. In those situations, it may not be super clear which company to quote or which approval class to quote. So we do what's called an X-ray, where we anonymously send that information to different insurance companies and ask them how they would tentatively approve your client based upon that information. If we need additional information, we'll reach out to your client. Maybe your client does a lot of foreign travel. In those situations, we may reach out to your client and have them fill out a foreign travel questionnaire. So once your client gets those quotes and they're ready to move forward, we then gather additional detailed information. This is when we gather information regarding, physicians they've seen in the past 5 years, maybe additional details on medications and any sort of, lifestyle type things. So your client needs to trust that we're going to be confidential with their information, but at the same time, they need to be very transparent and detailed in their answers. A perfect example would be somebody who's a cigar smoker. Some insurance companies may consider that person to be a smoker, and as we already determined, smoking rates can be 2 to 4 times the non-smoking version. Most companies are fine with cigar smoking as long as they smoke less than 10 cigars a year. So if your client is a cigar smoker, we're going to need to know those details because we certainly don't want to move forward with a company that's going to consider them a smoker. So once your client is ready to apply with a particular company, the next step is they're going to have a medical exam. And what I'd like to do is go through what exactly is all involved in the medical exam. The first thing they're going to have are blood tests done. What is the the underwriter looking for? They're looking for things that can cause organ damage. So they're going to run liver function tests, kidney function tests. They'll run the cholesterol and triglycerides, and they'll test HIV. Now, these tests are standard tests run by every single insurance company. That being said, that doesn't mean that the underwriter can't go back and request additional tests to be run. The labs, the blood is kept at the labs for a month, so they can go back and request additional lab tests to be run on the existing blood that's there. A perfect example would be, say your client had elevated liver function tests. So the underwriter's like, okay, there's something going on with the liver here. Let's investigate this further and see maybe what's causing that elevation. So they may run a hepatitis panel, or they may run a CDD test. This is a test that we've seen more frequently run in the past 2 to 3 years in the insurance industry. This test is an alcohol marker. If somebody tests positive for this test, they could possibly be table rated or possibly declined for insurance, depending on the insurance company. Now, they're only going to test positive if they have, on average, 4 drinks a day for the past 2 weeks. So it's really, they test positive, they're looking for significant alcohol use. If somebody's had a prostate issue, they may run the PSA level as well, and there's additional tests they could possibly run. Because the client's going to be having blood work done, we recommend that before the exam that they drink plenty of water. If somebody is dehydrated, it oftentimes can be difficult to find a vein, for the examiner to find a vein to get some blood. So we recommend that they stay very hydrated. It also makes it easier to provide a urine sample. Now, and that's another test that's run by every single insurance company. Now, the urinalysis, they're looking for kidney issues, as well as possible diabetes. But there's also 2 tests that I'd like to talk about. The first one is they're going to test for nicotine. If somebody tests positive for nicotine in their system, they will get smoker rates, even if they wear a nicotine patch, because there's no way to determine the source of the nicotine from a urinalysis. They can't tell, the underwriter can't tell whether somebody's wearing a patch, whether they chew Nicorette gum, or whether they smoke a pack of cigarettes a day. So if they test positive, they will get smoker rates, which means their premium will be 2 to 4 times the non-smoker version. Now, that being said, if we know somebody uses a nicotine patch or chews Nicorette gum ahead of time, there is 1 or 2 companies we can go to and get them non-smoker rates. They won't be eligible for Preferred Plus, but at least they'll get the non-smoker rates, which will help a lot. So again, full disclosure is the best way to find the best company for your clients. The second thing they're going to test for are drugs. And one drug in particular I'd like to talk about, and that's marijuana. The reason why I want to talk about marijuana is because this is the #1 quickest changing thing in underwriting right now. Marijuana is now legal in 8 states as well as DC for recreational use, and it's legal in additional states for medical use. So if somebody actually says that they've used marijuana in the past year or two, we're going to need to know details. How often they smoke, what form they use, the last time they used it, and the purpose. Is it recreational or is it for medical use? If it's for medical use, we need to know what condition it's treating, the doctor that prescribed it, and the dose. Now, it's interesting when we talk about what form. You guys obviously can't tell because this is a webinar, but I'm 53 years old and I used to smoke marijuana back in my college days, just like a lot of people probably have. Back then, you smoked it in either a joint, a bong, or a pipe. Those were your choices. Nowadays, it comes in gummy bears. There's cookies, there's brownies, there's lotion, there's liquid drops, there's vapor. You name it, it comes in that form. So if somebody has used marijuana or cannabis in the past 2 years, we're going to need to know what form. And here's a perfect example of an x-ray, because if somebody's used marijuana, because it's so quickly changing in the industry, we're going to want to do an x-ray because we want to make sure we move forward with the best company for the client. This particular client used marijuana 1 to 2 times per week, either smoked it or used edibles, lives in the state of Washington where it's legal, and has used it for the past 2 years for recreational use. So we did an x-ray and this is what came out. As you could see, several companies actually said the client would be declined for life insurance. Others would give tobacco rates. Many of them are table rating. There's 2 companies here, Prudential and Lincoln. Prudential would consider standard plus non-tobacco. Lincoln would consider standard non-tobacco. So clearly we would recommend one of those companies over, say, Columbus Life, who would ultimately result in a decline. And it's interesting when you talk about the states, even though it's legal in several states, it's still against federal law. So as far as the insurance company is concerned, they don't care what state you live in. If you live in Washington where it's legal versus where living in Florida where it's not legal for recreational use, it doesn't matter. You're underwritten, the same way. In addition to having a urinalysis, your client's going to have their blood pressure taken, as well as their height and weight. Now, we get this question a lot. I just had my blood work done at my doctor's office. Can that be used instead of me being examined? And that's a very good question, but the answer is no. The last time I went to my doctor's office, he's not testing me for drugs or nicotine or HIV. So your primary care doctor is actually looking for different things than the insurance company is. Now, what I'd like to go through, and to keep the theme with the with our 20th anniversary, I'd like to go over 20 things that can help your clients get the best results possible. And the reason why we want to go over this is because what happens during the exam oftentimes is the thing that makes somebody go from a preferred plus to a preferred. Because obviously, we may not know what the client's cholesterol level is or things like that. So let me go over the first one. We always recommend your client fast for 8 hours. They will be testing the client's sugar, the client's cholesterol, things like that. So we recommend that you fast for at least 8 hours. And the best way to fast is to schedule the exam early in the morning, because you're fasting overnight while you're asleep, so it's easy to do that. And the examiner does come out to the client's home, so they'll come out early in the morning, as early as 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. Another good reason why to schedule it first thing in the morning is because you weigh the lowest amount first thing in the morning before you have a meal. And every pound can make a difference. You know, if you're right on the cusp between preferred plus and preferred, that pound can make a difference in your final approval. So schedule it first thing in the morning. The third thing is avoid caffeine. Caffeine can raise your blood pressure. So we recommend that you avoid that for at least 8 hours. Same thing with avoiding energy drinks, really for the same reason, because of the caffeine in the energy drinks. But also a lot of the energy drinks also have supplements that are also within the energy drink that can mess with some of the lab values. And I see that there's a question here whether there's any downside to fasting longer, say 10 to 12 hours. Nope, there's no downside. That's perfectly fine to fast for 10 to 12 hours. We just recommend at least 8 hours. Now here's an example. Remember how previously I said how the underwriting guidelines are different for each company. This just gives you an idea with the blood pressure. Now typically a normal blood pressure is 120/80. Company A allows you to still be approved at preferred plus rates with 135/85. Company B is a little bit more strict with their preferred plus offer. You can't be any higher than 130/80 for preferred plus. But look at the preferred rate. Company B is actually more generous. They'll allow you to go up to 140/90. So not only is it company wise, but it's, insurance companies have different sweet spots, if you will, on where they allow blood pressure or cholesterol levels. So as you could see, it can be confusing, and that's why we try to gather as much information and go by the underwriting guidelines. The fifth thing we recommend is to not exercise within 24 hours. Now, a lot of people always have questions about this. If you enjoy doing a nightly walk around the neighborhood with your neighbors, that's certainly fine. What they're talking about is strenuous exercise. If you have a client that is training for a marathon and runs 6 or 8 miles every single day, or somebody who does heavy weights, we recommend not to do any strenuous exercise for 24 hours. And the reason being for that is sometimes when your muscle breaks down when you're lifting weights or putting strain on your muscles, it can make you spill protein in your urine. And we certainly don't want you to be negatively approved because you did a hard workout right before the exam. The sixth thing, and this is for women only, we avoid having the exam around that time of the month. And the reason being is that if you have your period while you're being examined, chances are you're going to have some blood cells in your urinalysis. And what's going to happen then is the underwriter's going to request a repeat urine to be done because they just want to make sure that the blood cells were due to that and not like a hidden kidney issue. So we recommend not to be examined during that time of the month. The seventh thing is to get a good night's rest. When we have a good night's rest, we tend to wake up very relaxed, and that helps with our blood pressure level as well. The eighth item is to wear light and loose clothing. Light clothing because if you're right on the cusp between, say, preferred plus and preferred for your weight, they are going to be weighing you with clothes. So we want to make sure that while you're being weighed by the examiner, that you're not wearing really heavy, bulky sweaters, things like that are going to add poundage. Anybody who's ever been part of Weight Watchers understands this, that when you have your weekly weigh-ins, if you've ever been to one of those meetings, everybody's practically stripping down to shorts and underwear and, a tank top because they don't want to have any extra poundage when they're weighed. Also, to have loose clothing. If you're wearing a tight sweater, it makes it difficult for the examiner to try to get some blood. Also, to put the blood pressure cuff around your arm. So keep in mind that they're going to be doing that. So to wear light and loose clothing. Now let's take a look at the build guidelines at some of these insurance companies. Here we have an example of a male who's 6 foot. Company A will still approve him at Preferred Plus if he weighs 217 or below. Company B is much more strict for Preferred Plus rates. He can't weigh more than 205. So that's a wide range there. But look at Standard Plus rates. Company B allows him to be approved at Standard Plus with a weight of 279. That's way higher than the Standard Plus rates for Company A, where the maximum that they can weigh for that is 242. So as you can see, Company A, their guidelines are much narrower, I guess, if you will, in their underwriting guidelines. And Company B has very broad guidelines like that. The ninth thing we recommend is to avoid nicotine. We certainly don't want your client getting smoker rates because, as we've said several times, smoker rates are 2 to 4 times the non-smoker version. And here's a perfect example how this can affect the underwriting. Here's Greg, age 34. He checked no for nicotine or tobacco use. So we quoted Standard Plus for build, and his annual premium was $350 a year. He tested positive for nicotine in his system. And then when he was questioned, he remembered using nicotine gum. Well, the same policy, and he ended up being approved at standard tobacco rates with a premium of $1,227.50. That's a huge jump in the premium. So like I said, we don't want people using any sort of nicotine prior to the exam. The 10th thing we recommend is to avoid marijuana. And if somebody has used marijuana in the past year, hopefully they already disclosed that and we did an x-ray, but clearly to avoid marijuana use before any sort of an exam. And just to show you the differences in the underwriting guidelines with that, here's Erica, age 29, applying for $2.5 million of life insurance. So she ingests marijuana twice per month, smokes maybe once per year. And this gives you a guideline here. One company would consider her preferred non-smoker with a premium of $1,253. Another company, Standard Plus, with $1,535. Two companies would consider her for standard rates, and another company, Standard Smoker, is what she would be approved at, with a premium of $33.75. So again, full disclosure, so we want to make sure we're not moving forward with the company that's going to consider her for standard smoker. We want to move forward with the company that's going to consider her for the preferred non-smoker rates. Now, that's for life insurance. Disability insurance, if somebody smokes marijuana, even if they're using edibles, if they've used edibles in the past year or smoked in the past year, they're going to be approved at tobacco rates. So they're actually a little more strict than even some of the life insurance companies. So that's the bad news. But the good news, the tobacco rates for disability are only about 25 or 30% higher than the non-tobacco, as opposed to the life insurance where it's a huge jump from non-smoker to smoker rates. The 11th thing we recommend is to limit salt for 24 hours. We've all done that before, where you have a high sodium dinner, you wake up the next morning and your fingers are all swollen, you feel bloated. And the reason for that is when you have a lot of salt, your body retains water, and water weighs. So you're adding poundage to your body, and we want to make sure that there's no extra poundage right before the exam. We also recommend that you limit high cholesterol foods for 24 hours. So in general, if you're getting the gist of this, eat a nice, healthy, well-balanced meal the day before the exam. And here are some cholesterol guidelines that some of the insurance companies use. Now, in the industry, way back when, the insurance companies tend to just go by your total cholesterol number, and typically you want to be under 200. Now in the insurance industry, and I think just with physicians in general, they also use the ratio, which is the total cholesterol divided by the HDL, which is your good cholesterol, and that's kind of an indicator as well whether you're prone to any sort of heart disease, things like that. So you want the numbers, the ratio to be low. But as you can see, Company A is a little strict with the total cholesterol. To be preferred plus, you have to have your cholesterol 220 or below. Company B allows all the approval classes to be up to 300, which is honestly a very high cholesterol level. But they're actually a little more strict on the ratio. So Company B is keying much more so into the ratio than the total cholesterol. So that kind of gives you a little bit of the understanding of the different insurance companies and the guidelines regarding cholesterol. Item 13 that we recommend is to avoid alcohol for 24 hours. And I would also throw in there to avoid any heavy drinking, 4 to 5 drinks at a time for the week prior to that. Just because, again, we don't want any sort of elevated liver function tests, rearing its ugly head. And also to avoid non-prescription drugs, ibuprofen, acetaminophen. Some of those, those medications are processed through your liver or kidney. If they're not necessary medications, we recommend to avoid those because they could possibly, if you're on high doses of those can also mess with your kidney functions or liver function tests. Now, that being said, we do recommend that you continue taking your regular prescriptions. We would never advise not taking prescription medications, especially if you're taking medications for elevated cholesterol or high blood pressure. That can actually help your exam. So continue taking that as well. Item 16, have a picture ID ready. The examiner is going to ask for that. They're going to make sure that the person who says, the person that is donating the blood, or not donating, but giving the blood and the urinalysis is in fact that person. So they will ask for a photo ID. Item 17, to have available a list of current medications. And the name of the medications, the dose, and the reason for the medications, because the examiner will ask for those, as well as a list of their past medical history or doctors. The nice thing about our online quote requests and our online questionnaire, the client already provided a lot of this information to us. They can download that and have that information available for the examiner. Now, I do see a question here regarding taking vitamins. I'm just backtracking a little bit about taking over-the-counter medications. It's okay to take vitamins. And fish oil. It's some of the ibuprofen, or if you take supplements, some people who do weightlifting, we've found that some of those type of supplements can affect the, lab values, but vitamins won't. Allergy medications should be fine as well. That should be fine. And again, back to 18 here, they will ask for a list of doctors that you've seen in the past 5 years. We recommend, number 19, we recommend that you schedule at least 30 minutes for this exam. Reason being, it's going to take some time to get the blood urinalysis and ask all these questions. So we don't want you to be rushed and trying to get the kids off to school and being stressed regarding this exam. So that goes to number 20, relax. So if you do have kids that you're trying to get off to school or something like that to get out the door before the exam, maybe have your spouse handle the kids getting off to school so you have a moment to take a couple breaths before the examiner gets there and, relax for a few minutes. You certainly don't want a hectic day to negatively affect your underwriting, and then you're stuck with a higher premium for the next 20 years when you could have avoided that type of situation. And we do have on our website a list of these medications, an electronic brochure that outlines these tips, so that's always available for you to review as well. Now, in addition to having an exam done, the underwriter is going to order the client's motor vehicle report. And the reason being is that car accidents are one of the number one causes of death in people ages 5 to 34. People who have multiple speeding tickets, DUIs, things like that, these are people that have a higher risk to the insurance company. And this is really the number one risky behavior that people do. We all voluntarily every single day get into a car to get to work or to school, whatever the case may be. So they do order your motor vehicle report when you apply for life insurance. And let's take a look at how the motor vehicle report, the exam, can affect somebody's underwriting. Here's Dave, age 25. He works out, he eats healthy. He's like, I'm super healthy. I want preferred plus rates, right? So he fills out a quote request, $1 million of life insurance, and these are monthly premiums. Chances are he's going to apply with Banner because it's the least expensive company for him. So he applies with Banner. Let's see how this plays out. He didn't take our advice by having his spouse get the kids off to school. He actually was trying to deal with that. So when he was examined, his blood pressure was a little elevated at 135/86. Not necessarily high enough to warrant medication, but clearly high enough that it knocked him out of the preferred plus and preferred categories with many of the insurance companies. Lucky for Dave, though, he's still eligible for preferred plus. But when the underwriter ordered his motor vehicle report, he had a DUI 4 years ago, and that knocked him out of preferred plus and preferred with Banner, as well as standard plus with some of the other insurance companies. So as you can see, the best he would be eligible for now is Cincinnati Life with a premium of $55.88 per year. Now you may say, geez, well, maybe he should apply with all 10 companies and see which one comes back with the best offer. We all like to shop around to get a good deal, right? Well, that's good when it comes to shopping around for quotes. However, applying with multiple insurance companies for the point of getting the best rate possible is actually not a good idea. It actually negatively affects the underwriting process. And this is how that comes into play. When you apply for when you apply for insurance, whether it's life insurance, long-term care, disability insurance, or health insurance, your name goes into this database, the Medical Information Bureau. It tracks insurance applications. So the underwriter is going to see that there's 9 other pending applications out there and that they're all for $1 million. So Dave is could apply and place $10 million of life insurance. Well, the underwriter's actually going to say, I don't like that. The client could be overinsured, and the underwriters don't like having clients overinsured. So what they're going to do in that type of situation is, if the client's not eligible for 10 million, maybe Dave makes $45,000 a year and he doesn't qualify for $10 million of life insurance. He could actually be declined for insurance based upon that. The other thing that could happen is if, the case manager reaches out to him and says, Dave, it looks like you're applying with other insurance companies. And Dave says, yeah, I'm just trying to find out the best offer. I'm only going to place $1 million. Then the underwriter may possibly make an offer, and then he may need to sign an amendment saying he's not placing the other policies. Either way, it delays the process and negatively affects the underwriting process. The other purpose of this database is that it protects against fraud. Maybe Dave applied for insurance 4 months ago and actually got nicotine rates and didn't like those rates, obviously, because they're, 3 times the non-nicotine version. So he decided, I'm going to go apply with another agent and another insurance company, and I'm going to quit smoking. I'm going to make sure there's no nicotine in my system. So he applies, and the underwriter is going to see that he applied for insurance and was approved with nicotine rates 4 months ago. They're going to look at his application, and Dave said no, he's never used nicotine or tobacco products ever in his life. Well, you know what? He tested positive for nicotine, so they will probably approve him at nicotine rates no matter what his urine is right now. So again, it protects against fraud. It's protecting the insurance company, making sure that the client isn't trying to learn the system or work the system. When it protects against fraud, it protects the insurance company as well as the consumers, because whenever there's fraud, who pays for it? But all of us. So again, we recommend let us do the shopping for you. But we feel so strongly about this. If a client comes to us and they already have an application in process, we'll recommend that they continue applying with that agent and that insurance company, because we don't want to negatively affect what they have going on. That being said, if they got an offer they're not happy with, they could certainly circle back to us, and we can see what we can do to help them at that time. The underwriter is also going to run the client's name through the prescription database. Now, this shows medications that have been filled in the past 5 years. And typically the medications are color-coded, green, yellow, red, just like our traffic lights, right? A green medication may be something like a random antibiotic or Tamiflu or birth control. An underwriter's not concerned about those medications. A yellow medication may be something like that they come back and ask about, depression meds, anxiety meds, a narcotic. They'll come back and ask about that, especially if that's not disclosed on the application. A red medication is something that would probably ultimately result in a decline. That would be something like AIDS treatment or chemotherapy. And we had an example like this. Meredith, who did a phone interview with us, said that she didn't take any medications in the past 5 years. When she went through the underwriting process, it turned out that she was prescribed 3 different depression medications in the past 5 years for situational depression. She wasn't currently on medication, but she had taken them in the past. She was approved at standard rates, and we did not think that that's a good offer, especially since she's not currently on medication. So what we did is we shopped it around, did one of those x-rays, and we were able to find her preferred plus rates. So again, with full information, we can find the right fit. We were able to get her preferred plus rates, but at the same time, she had to reapply with another insurance company. It could have saved a lot of time had we known this information ahead of time. Now, up until this point, I've been pretty much talking about life insurance. Let's take a little peek at the difference between life insurance and long-term care and disability. All 3 of them go through medical underwriting. Life insurance is concerned about mortality issues, things that you're going to die at a premature age from. Long-term care and disability, they're not so concerned about that. If you die, they don't need to pay a claim, so they're not concerned about those issues as much. They're really concerned about issues that you're going to need care for, or things that are going to prevent you from doing your job. Now, you remember earlier in the presentation, I said that men pay more for life insurance? Well, women pay much more for long-term care and disability, kind of for the same reasons, because we live longer. Also, it's related to our hormones. So as we get older, women tend to lose estrogen, which we're more prone because of that to osteoporosis, which means we're going to have bone fractures, conditions such as that can make us, that can be debilitating and we'll need care for. Also, because we live longer for long-term care, say I'm married and my husband needs some care, statistically, I would still be alive to help take care of him. Okay, so then he dies, and when I need long-term care, who's going to help take care of me but my long-term care insurance? I'm going to put a claim in. So women have statistically higher claims. Same thing with disability. Because of pregnancy issues, breast cancer, things like that, because of our plumbing, if you will, we tend to have higher disability claims. So we pay much more for those two products. Now, let's take a look at the express underwriting. Once an application is submitted to the insurance company, the underwriting process typically takes about 2 to 3 months. I didn't even go over the fact that they order medical records and the underwriter has to review that. So it's a long process. But some of the insurance companies have introduced express underwriting. So, if you go through traditional way, it can feel like that turtle, it's taken forever to cross that finish line. But with the express application, you can cross that finish line much quicker. What are the benefits of it? Obviously, improved policy issue time. There's less paperwork and follow-up. There's also fewer requirements, such as medical records and exams. Now, not everybody qualifies for this. The insured needs to be the owner. This does not work for buy-sell or if it's trust-owned. It's good for people ages 20 to 50 and in general good health, and for amounts 500 to $1 million or less, depending on the insurance company. So that's who it's designed for. Now let's see how this works. We're still going to do our phone interview and shop it around. We're not going to bypass that. We do all that pre-underwriting still, even with the express application, because we want to make sure we're moving forward with the best company for your client. But if they go through the express option, we'll send basic information to the insurance company. Now they're going to do their own phone interview with the client. They're going to run the client's name through the Medical Information Bureau, the prescription database, and then they'll order the motor vehicle report. And if everything looks good, the client may go through the fast lane, the express lane, with no exam, no medical records. They'll go straight to an approval. So that 2 to 3 month process could be done in a week. So we all like that, right? We want to get our policy placed as quick as possible. The other option is that we'll still do our phone interview. We'll shop around, find the right company. Again, they'll do the phone interview, run the name through the databases. But maybe the client's on medication for high blood pressure or cholesterol or something like that. And the underwriter may say, I may want to send an examiner out to do a blood pressure or to do some lab work, or maybe they'll order medical records. So they would kind of go through the traditional underwriting before an approval. And that's fine too. We always like to try the express application process because the underwriter has the authority to waive the labs. We don't here at LLIS, so we like to kind of put the ball in their court and allow them to hopefully be able to waive those labs. Now, some of the companies also have a policy delivery express process too. Traditionally, once an approval is made, the insurance company, issues the policy, they bind the policy, they mail it to us to review. We send it to the client and ask for the premium at that time, and we ask for the premium and any other forms that need to be signed. We give them 2 weeks to return that, and then once they return it, we send it to the insurance company, and it won't be placed in force until the check's deposited and all that's done. So from approval to enforce, that whole process can take still 4 to 6 weeks. With the express delivery, the company can issue the policy, send it to us electronically to review. We can send it to the client to review the same day, and the client can sign electronically. They can pay with electronic transfer or credit card. Once they do that, they can download the policy, save it as a PDF. They can print it out if they want a hard copy. Either way, it can go from issue to enforce in a matter of days instead of weeks, which obviously saves a lot of time, and it saves trees as well. We're all trying to be greener, right? So it ends up saving a lot of trees too. I have a question here, whether Preferred Plus rating can be obtained through express application process. Absolutely. All the approval classes that are eligible through traditional are also available through the express. So today we went through the purpose of underwriting. We touched on how to receive quotes. I went through traditional underwriting a little bit and the 20 tips on how to get the best exam results possible. And I introduced you to the express underwriting. Now, what are the top 10 things that make LLIS different? Well, this is one of them. What you're sitting in on right now. We have free monthly webinars. If you found today to be helpful and educational, well, we have 8 more the rest of the year. So feel free to register for another one of those. And as you can see, in honor of our 20th anniversary, we're doing the 20 theme. We're not your competition. In fact, our fee-only advisors, you're our clients. We save you a lot of time and your clients a lot of time as well as money. How do we do that? Well, we do that by doing a lot of pre-underwriting. We're not a big fan of surprises here. Our goal is to find the best product at the least premium for your clients. We have tons of tools on our website for the advisors and for the clients. So feel free to log on, our how to prepare for the exam, an explanation of the underwriting process, the underwriting approvals, all that's done on electronic brochures that we have available on our website. We proudly sponsor our fee-only planning networks, and there's many of them that we sponsor. We also have specialists in lots of products: life, disability, long-term care, annuities, and hybrids. And once your client's policy is enforced, we don't say goodbye. No, we service that policy for the life of the policy. We send emails to the client and advisor prior to the premium notice being sent to the client, just to give them a heads up it's coming their way. As well as when the end of the term comes, we send an email about what their options are, whether they want to convert to a permanent product, apply for another term policy, those type of things. And our newest team member, have you met Alice? It's our new secure website that's available for financial advisors and clients. It's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Those are better hours than the rest of the employees here at LLIS. You can upload secure documents and secure messages to us. You could see where your clients are in the underwriting process. You can see their annual statements and beneficiary information. So there's a wealth of information on there regarding your clients, and the clients have access to that information as well. So feel free to log on and see that information as well. We're thrilled to introduce LLIS this year. Let me see. Okay. I have a question here. Is there a rule of thumb, the percent of how much higher a premium would be at a standard rate versus a select rate or a standard plus rate? A standard rate may be, about 15 to 20% higher than the select rate. But it depends really on the insurance company and, the amount and the term length. But that gives you a ballpark figure. Also, when it comes to table rating, which, we really didn't talk about, but the table ratings, there's like 10 to 15 table ratings depending on the insurance company, and that each table rating is 25% higher than the standard, and that's a set amount, 25% based upon either the standard or standard plus, depending on the insurance company. But it's nice to know that table A is 25% higher. How do you get signed up for LLIS? There was a question for that. All our financial advisors have access to that. Feel free to reach out to us. We'll set you up in our system and we'll send you a temporary password. And then you can change the password to whatever you like. And then all your clients will be under there where you can access things. If a client has a rapidly changing life need, like increase in compensation, kids, does it reflect poorly on insurance application? Oh, if you do multiple applications, no, not at all. And in fact, oftentimes people have multiple policies that are layered on top of each other to reflect those life changes. So that's not reflect poorly whatsoever. Where, if any, along the process is it determined that if a client engages in dangerous activity like mountain climbing or skydiving that could cause an increase rating? That's just during the application process. So, on our quote requests, we do ask those questions, whether somebody skydives, scuba dives, you're underwritten at the time of application. So if somebody doesn't scuba dive and has never done it, but 3 years down the line takes up scuba diving, that's okay. You're underwritten at that time. It's a snapshot in time. So you're underwritten at that time. Just like life insurance, if you're healthy now, they're obviously not going to penalize you if you're diagnosed with cancer 5 years down the line. That's the whole purpose of life insurance. So. And we do x-rays for those kind of lifestyle type things if it's not super clear on which company to move forward with. We do ask what sort of type of mountain climbing and what sort of equipment that they use, or if they are a private pilot, what kind of plane they fly and how many hours. Those nuances, that's why we do an x-ray. That's why we do the pre-underwriting, so that we have a clear picture before moving forward, which is the best company for your client. We don't want to waste our time. We don't want to waste your time. We don't want to waste the client's time. So our goal is to find the best policy. And thank you for all those questions. If anybody else has any more, my email's there. Feel free to reach out to me if you think of a question down the line that wasn't answered. It's been a pleasure, and I hope you guys register for the next month's webinar. And that will be done by Mark Maurer, the president of our company. Thank you.